To a big festival that's now in its 46th year in West Austin.
And the look, too, the Lover's Moon. Can you guess which one? That would be me. Joining me right now is Leslie Martin Conwell. She's feast coordinator, along with Tim Miller, who's a food vending participant as well. For people who aren't familiar, what exactly is the Feast of the Hunter's Moon besides something that sounds very cool?
Well, a lot of people just call it the Feast.
The Feast,
that have been because they know it's all about the food. The Feast is a recreation of life at Fort Ouiatenon, which existed from 1717 to 1791. It's held every year in the fall. This year it's October 5th and 6th. And a large portion of that revolves around food. And Tim is one of our longtime Feast food vendors. He does the fry bread. We also have the Scottish meat pie, French pastries.
Food was a lot different in the 1700s, wasn't it? I mean, it was...
Yeah.
No refrigeration, not a lot of preservatives. You sort of dealt with what you had. This fry bread, you've been already preparing some of it. What exactly, was this considered a staple at the time?
Fry bread actually came along about 1849, 1850. When the Southwest Native Americans were forcibly relocated to the reservations. They couldn't hunt, they couldn't farm like they had before. They were given rations by the government. So they had flour, baking powder, salt, and lard.
Wow, okay.
And so if you have all the components to fry bread.
Fry bread, all right. Go with what you have, right?
Exactly.
So with basic ingredients, is it a fairly basic recipe to put together?
It's fairly, well... brought our traditional.
Oh, look at that.
Our traditional recipe board. And now, keep in mind, this is the Feast, and we're in 2013,
sure,
not the 1700s, so we have to do things like wash our hands,
sure,
and watch out for the Board of Health.
Yeah, some things back at that time we don't want to experience.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, what we do, first we want to do is wake up the yeast. The yeast has been in hibernation. We want to give it a little warm water so it wakes up, some salt to buffer the content of the water, some sugar for that to eat. And we cheat. We could put it in a nice little...
Sure, we understand.
We could put it in a nice little bowl, but we're outdoors. There's all kinds of bugs and people walking around. So we have a half dozen or so of these water bottles. We keep these hidden from the people they can't see. But that allows us to put the sugar and the water and the yeast in there and shake it up, and it can vent and rise and have that nice, lovely baking brewery type smell.
And to make the Board of Health happy.
There you go. And the Board of Health, because it's very hard for the bugs to get in dirt back in there. So we let the yeast wake up for a little bit. It then goes into the bowl with 4 cups of flour and 5 tablespoons of baking soda.
I like a cheat sheet that's a half inch thick and weighs about 5 pounds.
Well, I've worked at Purdue for 34 years now. We're big on cheat sheets for certain things. Not in tests.
Not in tests. Yeah, exactly.
Around the laboratory.
It's a study guide. That's what it is.
So then we take all those components, mix them together. Now this is kind of like a biscuit. It's not like a French bread that you want to be really, really chewy. You want this to be kind of light and fluffy. So we just barely mix it. You can see here there's even some lines in there where things haven't really been wetted well. If we were doing something like a French bread, we'd be kneading
the heck out of it. So makes it a little more practical.
Then at that point, you want to pull off a piece, and it depends on who you're talking to, which Native American group, but they prefer anywhere from egg size to baseball size. How large the final product is, how big your hands are.
How big your appetite is.
How big your appetite is. Now, another food allegory here is we don't want to roll this. We had to hide all the rolling pins. The mothers in the Boy Scout troop were trying to roll this stuff out to make it nice and flat like a bread crust. That changes the texture. So, you know, how do you make a good pizza? You throw the dough up in the air and spin it so it stretches out. So we're going to take the dough and stretch it, and you don't have to get your hands all over it. And it's okay if it's not perfectly round. And you really want to tear a hole in the middle. There's some significance to the hole.
It's like
well, some people put religious significance on it. Some people just say it's like a donut. We want it to cook better. And we let it rise for a little bit. So we end up with this irregular shaped piece of dough. We have our very hot oil over here. We'll carefully slide that in.
There you go.
We'll turn that back up. It just says hot.
Of course, we would do this over an open fire at the feast, but we didn't want to an open fire in the studio.
Yeah, they didn't want to bring in one of the big 12-gallon cans. Let me tell you, they would have loved an induction cooktop back then, wouldn't they?
They would have.
Well, no electricity.
So, yeah, that's true. But as far as feast goes, I mean, there's a lot to be learned, but there's also a lot of fun to be had. I'm guessing if somebody's cell phone rings, they're not going to get flogged or anything like that. I mean,
depends on whose booth you're in.
Well, if you can hear it there's music constantly going, fifing and drumming, bagpipes. So it's a feast for the senses, and food is.
Remind people again when this is going to be. I like this in October, which I think probably considering your authentic garb, you're probably glad it's a little bit later in the season.
I'm in wool and velvet and silk and leather, but yes, it's October 5th and 6th.
Now the outfit that you're wearing, very Sgt. Pepperish, but I mean that's practical, right? For writing?
Yes, actually, this is a woman's writing habit that I'm wearing here. It's about 1745. It's got the big leather cuffs, the gold braid. They patterned them after military outfits, and you can see the pre-curved sleeves to hold my arms in place to ride side saddle.
Very nice, like a lady would. And we're going to have more coming up a little bit later. We're going to have some. You mentioned the music that's going to take place. We're going to have all the information for the feast on our website, indystyle.tv. We'd love to do it, an old-fashioned way, but I can't. A pony and a messenger is not going to.
Right.
We got the fry bread going right there. Is it almost done?
It's almost done.
Almost done. We'll have a piece. Randy Alice is going to come over with the forecast. Maybe we get him to look ahead to October for the weekend of the feast and bribe him with some fry bread.
And then typically we'll put powdered sugar or cinnamon.
Oh, all right.
My personal favorite, apple butter.
Bring it.
Apple butter.
Yes.
And some of the young ones, they figured out they can use the apple butter as an adhesive to hold even more powdered sugar, so they can increase that sugar rush.
I love that. Maybe take some nice fry bread over to a lovely lady you would be courting back in the day.
You bet.
Oh, that would be a great way to maybe get a date.
I don't know if it'll work now.
I don't know. Well, we got an expert here, so it's like a tiny guitar to me.
It is. The mandolin is, well, it's actually Italian in origin.
There you go.
But we've been playing them in the United States for a long time. Yeah, it's sort of like if you crashed a violin into a guitar, this is the debris that is produced.
This is what you would wind up
Tuned like
with.
a violin, but it's played more like a guitar.
And Leslie, I imagine that the music's a really important component to sort of recreating the late 18th century.
The music is what really sets the tone for the event. From the moment you step out of your car, the shuttle bus, that's what you're going to hear. And it celebrates all the cultures that were at the original Fort Weatnan, from the Native American singing and dancing to the Scottish Celtic to the French colonial and the early American. And so Erik is here to help bring a little bit of that taste to the audience today.
Oh, okay. Well, so actually first, Leslie and I talked about this a little bit. One of the really popular instruments we have from the 18th and 19th century, you can see why it's so popular. I can carry it in my pocket. It's a jaw harp. It's also called a trump in French and things like that. We find them in archaeological digs all throughout the state. Very popular trade instrument that we don't hear anymore. The only time we hear it these days is as the error sound on a computer. So I'll play a little bit of jaw harp for you.
Okay, that'd be great. Now, our director just mentioned to me that might have been the instrument that Snoopy played as well.
Oh, that could be.
It could be? Yeah.
If anybody would play a jaw harp, it would be Snoopy.
I'm down with that as well.
I'll play some dance tunes now. These are just sort of the things that we have a dance out at the Hunter's Moon.
And then real quick before you do that, just remind everybody when the feast is.
It's October 5th and 6th. You can go to our website, tippecanoehistory.org, to order tickets, find out about shuttle buses, and our schedule is already posted.
Fabulous. And what a great way to bring history to life for the kids and for the kids and all of us. All right, with that, Erik, I'll let you take it away.